Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm joined by Colby Mead from the ColbyCast to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Indiana Jones adventure. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our T Public store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Howdy, everybody. Welcome back to another amazing, super, and fun installment of Force Ghost Conversations. I can't wait to get into this conversation with Colby. Colby Mead from the ColbyCast comes back to the show to chat all things about the Indiana Jones adventure. Yes, the ride at Disneyland, Indiana Jones and Temple of Forbidden Eye, you also may know it as. But this ride, this incredible adventure opened officially at Disneyland 30 years ago on March 3rd, 1995, which is a truly amazing feat that this ride is still just as popular all these years later. And I gotta tell you, when I'm at Disneyland, it is one of the first things that I like pledge myself I'm going to be doing. Right, like I know full well like that's a drive to go to Disneyland for that. Right, like that's a reason to go there. I'm super jealous of all the folks that are going to Star Wars Celebration Japan for multiple reasons, but the fact that they are in the proximity of the Indiana Jones adventure, the Temple of the Crystal Skull, or something like that, that is in uh, Disney Sea. I think it's in the Disney Sea Park. Um, just to experience that and a different version of the ride, apparently it's more smooth too. All that is super cool. So yeah, I love this ride. I can't wait to dive into all of the memories and the nitty gritty of what makes this ride really pop for everybody, and just kind of get at the center of all that here. So Colby's a wonderful guest to have on the show. Go check out the Colby Cast, and a wonderful conversation that he has over there. Before we get into that conversation, let's do a rundown of the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent news in our appropriately dubbed Cloud City Gossip segment. And we have a lot this week, actually. You may have heard, but there's a little show coming out in April, just after Star Wars Celebration, April 22nd, called Andor Season 2, which will be concluding this story here. And we got a teaser, trailer, and poster. So you can see the poster available on StarWars.com. It kind of just features Cassian, our beloved rebel hero, now in that little teaser poster itself. But we got a teaser trailer, and I have it queued up on my YouTube here. So I'm going to just kind of do a watch and talk along here, just a quick little commentary. So I'm going to hit play on it. If you want to pause this episode and pull it up yourself, do that right now. And I'm just on YouTube. I searched for the Andor Season 2 trailer, streaming April 22nd on Disney Plus from the Star Wars official YouTube account. And if you want to follow along, please go ahead. But I'm going to hit play in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I gotta say, the first thing that I noticed is that there's the kind of like rock song here. Just a gripe of mine. I'm not a fan of that in the trailer, but it is what it is. Overall, it doesn't detract from anything that I'm watching overall here, which are some great images here. It's interesting that they're kind of like telling us how like it was such a critical success Andor was. Nice seeing Mon Mothma and Luthen Rael, Saw Gerrera. These characters are going to be pivotal to telling the original formation or just the early days of what we know as the full Rebel Alliance. Absolutely a true treasure and blast to see. First off, Yavin 4, that looks like, or what might be the beginnings of Yavin, the base there. Seeing also our Orson Krennic, our terrible director of the Death Star program. It's just wow. Mon Mothma dancing for some reason. Is that her divorce from Perrin? K2SO in the trailer. Looks like a lot of great action here. Cyril Karn, of course. Hopefully he's running after some cereal. Look like Melshi. Man, some Saw Gerrera again. Luke, Cyril's mom. Wow, this is great. Cassian, of course, giving that sigh smirk at the end. Man, I cannot wait for this show. I tell you what, talk about a highly anticipated project. Can't wait to do a rewatch of the first season. That's kind of been like something I've been wanting to do for a while, but like, got to devote the time to it. So now I actually have a reason to. Got this coming out, got Daredevil coming out, got some other things we're going to talk about here that are exciting coming up in the future. Star Wars Celebration. There's so much going on in this world of Star Wars fandom, but fandom at large that's really exciting to be a part of right now. And Andor is certainly at the tip of that iceberg. I tell you what. So, just some more details about Andor season 2 that we have been confirmed here. Tony Gilroy wrote the first 3 episodes. Bo Willimon wrote episodes 4 through 6. Dan Gilroy penned episodes 7 through 9, and Tom Bissell or let's just say wrote the remaining episodes 10 through 12. Now, the directors for the series are Ariel Kleiman, who directed episodes 1 through 6. Janice Metz directed episodes 7 through 9, and Alonso Ruiz Palacios, hope I pronounced that right, and apologies if not, directed episodes 10 through 12, with the first 3 episodes being released on April 22nd, and then it'll be a 3 episode drop subsequently with each week beyond that, which I think kind of works for this because each week will be a year leading up to the events of Rogue One. So if you look at season 1 being that 5-year point away from the events of Rogue One, then the first 3 episodes of season 2 will be that second year, then third year, fourth year, and fifth year, and then finally leading into the Ring of Kafrene, where we're supposed to meet Cassian in meeting Tivik in the events of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So really, again, we're full on board on the Andor train right now. Let's get into it and let's have a great time. The only downside is, it's kind of looking forward to this like summer of Andor, this kind of 12-week span that we were going to have with it here, but is what it is. I trust the creators. They're doing this for a reason here. This is something that they clearly believe strongly in, and gotta trust them for that. So, also in the same vein of this like early rebellion days, Star Wars: The Mask of Fear, the new book that is the first in the Reign of the Empire trilogy by Alexander Freed, is now out. So, if you want more stories about Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, Saw Gerrera, perhaps too, this is a book for you. And I'm very excited to check this out. And just gotta add it to the reading list here. Let's do it, folks. Furthermore, in awesome news, truly tremendously awesome news, I gotta tell you this. For the 20th anniversary of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, the film will be coming back to cinemas for a week starting on April 25th. Sign me up. It's my favorite Star Wars film. I cannot wait to see this thing back in the cinema again. How many times will I see it in the theater? That is the true question to be asked here. Just really a truly wonderful film. And spoil everybody, we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes here for the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. So if you're a fan of that movie and just a fan of this podcast in general, stay tuned. Come mid-March, April, May, we've got a lot coming up in that sphere. So just be on the lookout for that. A lot of exciting things. I did want to address one rumor that is circulating online that I did see, specifically around Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, who has said that she might potentially could step away, retire by the end of 2025. Again, this is a rumor. I'm seeing a lot of mixed reporting here. One saying not true, another saying more than likely. Again, she's been in the post for over 12, 13 years now as president of Lucasfilm. And she's had a storied career in Hollywood. I mean, go check out all of her producing credits, going all the way back to being a assistant on Raiders of the Lost Ark. Definitely has earned the right to retire at some point if she wants. And if not, she's also earned the right to stay on as president of Lucasfilm. So just wanted to address that. It's not a big deal to me. I know Star Wars will persevere afterwards, but I'm a big fan of what she's done during her tenure. And I hope that if she wants to and continues to have enjoyment and fun and reward out of the job, then so be it. Keep on keeping on, Kathleen. So that's really ultimately all the news that I had for this week, folks. We'll be back on the other side of this short break with our conversation with Colby Mead from the ColbyCast about the Indiana Jones adventure. Just before I get to that, though, I did want to note again, follow us on all the social media platforms if you want to continue the conversation with us about any of these things, whether it be Andor, Indiana Jones, etc. Um, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So barely on X these days, but you can find us there, and just search for Force Coast Conversations, and we'll be there in some capacity. All right, folks, let's get to that conversation with Colby. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Forest Ghost Conversations, everyone. I am so thrilled to have this conversation today. You have no idea. There's a little thing in the West Coast called Disneyland, and within that wonderful amusement park, there is a ride called the Indiana Jones Adventure, which on March 3rd, 1995, had its debut. Technically, I guess March 2nd, it had a little bit of a soft opening, but the actual specific date is March 3rd that it opened up to the general public, and the world has been changed since then. So we're here to celebrate 30 years of this incredible ride. Hard to believe. Hard to believe it's been 30 years already. But we are not alone in our discussion here today. We have brought on friend of the show, Colby Mead from the ColbyCast, to break down this ride and to chat about all the adventures we've had along the way. Colby, welcome back to the podcast, and how are you doing?
Anthony, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited about talking about this tonight, and I'm doing very, very well. Thank you.
Fantastic. And like we were chatting about before hitting record on this, the Disneyland is right in your backyard. So you've been to the park a few times over the years. Is that fair to say?
A few times, yeah, that is fair to say, and we try to be strategic about it because it ain't cheap, but
Doesn't get
we
any
do
cheaper
make it
either.
out. No, it's true, and it's not gonna. But we do make it out there quite frequently. The last few years, we've averaged at least one visit a year,
Hmm.
which has been a huge blessing and just incredible to be able to do. When I was young, when I was growing up, my parents, we didn't go on like vacations where we would travel places.
Hmm.
We always went to one place, and that was Newport Beach, California. We
Alrighty.
would rent a
Nice.
we would rent a nice beach house and we'd spend a week at the beach. But within that week, we would always take a trip down to Disneyland.
Ah.
So because it's very close, the Anaheim and Newport Beach are very close. So we when I was young, so, 5, 6, 7 to 14, 15 years old, we pretty much had yearly summer trips to Disneyland too.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I've seen it all. I'm no spring chicken. So I've seen it way back in the 80s, the 90s, and up till today. So I feel so fortunate to be able to say that because I know it's not the case for everybody. It's
You've seen
great.
the real changes of Anaheim. You've seen the California Angels. You've seen the Anaheim Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, back to the Los Angeles Angels. You've seen the changes throughout
Yeah,
the years.
yeah, that is true. And then don't even get us started on talking about the Rams. They were LA Rams in Anaheim as well, but then they went to St. Louis and now they're back. And yeah, so there has been a lot of change in that regard too.
Oh man, man, a lot of changes in the Anaheim. I mean, I'm sure you could tell us Catella Ave is I imagine has had quite a redo over the years. Some of those hotels that are on that strip are some remnants of the past, but with Bubba Gump Shrimp and the Anaheim Garden Walkway with the House of Blues. I mean, that didn't just pop up overnight. I imagine.
Boy, the change the whole area has gone through. I remember parking. Well, no, I didn't necessarily park, but I rode in my family car where we
Hmm.
parked where California Adventure is now,
Nice.
because that was
With
just
just a
a
parking lot.
massive parking lot. Just went forever and ever. They even had trams taking you from that parking lot. And when they announced they were going to develop California Adventure, we're all going, "Where are you going to put that?" We didn't understand you could stack parking on top of each
That's
other,
right.
right?
And move it
Nobody
away
had
and
the
walk all the way.
Exactly. So yeah, I remember. I have a lot of memories walking that massive parking lot to the gates of Disneyland, which are still very similar
Hmm.
to back then. But yeah, now it's California Adventure. So and they're going to grow even more.
And they're
Apparently, they have
expanding.
this
Yeah.
whole plan. So
Going
I'm looking
forward,
forward to
and
seeing what's going to happen.
I can't wait too. I mean, some of the additions to Avengers Campus are going to be awesome. The whole Avatar land that's coming, Coco, I think, is also coming to that space, and that's just
Which
the
I'm
tip of the
super
iceberg,
excited about.
frankly. Yeah, and more hotels
I'm so
probably.
yeah. Yep, all of that. All of that.
Can't wait. And
We'll see.
and man, Downtown Disney's getting expansion too. All that. Good stuff. Good stuff's coming. Hopefully, like, Star Wars Celebration perhaps might be back at the Anaheim Convention Center. So once they've started making some changes to the Disneyland and downtown Disney area, that when we go back in a few years, hopefully that we'll be able to see some of those changes and progress made.
Well, I can tell you that 2022 and having all of my podcasting friends and Star Wars friends in my backyard and hanging out with all of you
Yeah.
guys for 4 days was just a highlight. Like, I can't even, don't get me started. So I can't wait for that to happen again. That's going to be
It
great.
was a
I
blast.
hope sooner than later. It was
Mm.
great.
Me too. It's always nice when they come to you, right? It's a lot easier.
Sure is.
Fly here, we'll
Sure.
hang out. We'll go to, Splitsville. We'll hang out.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll do the fun stuff. But we, Colby, are here to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Indiana Jones Adventure ride at Disneyland. So let's start at the beginning. What are your first memories with this ride? When did you ride it first, and what was that experience like?
So I remember I wasn't there for the grand opening. I wasn't there like on day one or anything like
You
that.
didn't fight to be
Uh,
the first person on it?
at that stage of my life, we're talking about mid 90s. I had I was engaged to be married. So I had grown out of like the yearly family trips
Hmm.
and was sort of transitioning into building my own family,
Yeah.
which I'm so blessed to have now, 20 30 years later, to compare my life to what it was back then is just part of the fun of preparing for this conversation.
Right.
um what I can tell you that so I can't tell you exactly when I wrote it, but I do know that it was still within the window of it being hugely popular
Hmm.
because the line was long.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, there were no fast passes back then, so
Right.
it was all just waiting, and the wait was huge. One of some of my first memories of it was just not minding the wait really because the queue is so incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You go through like the outside portion of it, so you're sort of still exposed to the hot elements, right? But
Hmm.
there's shade, but then once you get into like the staircases going down and like the you're underground seemingly in the cave aesthetic,
Hmm.
I was like that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. Star Tours is cool, and you have a fun time waiting in that queue because you get to see the droids and
Right.
the stuff and all that. But this was another level. I had never seen a queue like
Hmm.
that, and I actually didn't mind waiting in that. And yeah, that's impressive. A huge wait and very impressive. And it was also the first attraction that really hit my nerd radar
Hmm.
since Star Tours. Because a few things opened up between Star Tours, which of course was in '87. Then you had Splash Mountain in '89. Toontown opened up in '93.
Mm.
Roger Rabbit in '94, and then Indy in '95. I was excited about those things, but nothing like Star Wars and nothing like Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
These were like right in my wheelhouse. So yeah, it was just a blast when it opened up, and it was a big deal, very big deal.
Big deal. All right. Love to hear it. What was that first, like, you get into the Jeep, like, experience?
Anthony, can I tell you, it jacked up my back so bad. I
You broke
full
me.
dis- full disclosure, I was not ready for the herky jerky Jeep of Indiana Jones Adventure.
Wow.
Like that first thing, it's going around the corner, the corners, and it's just jerking back and forth. Like still to this day, it is a core workout for me
Yeah.
because like myself, the way I'm constructed, and I'm not known for being a fitness freak, I'll tell you that. But when I sit in that thing, I have to put my arms on the railing in front of
Uh-huh.
me and push myself back and plant my feet and
You're
just
holding on for dear life.
my core is engaged for 4 minutes straight, or else I'm walking out of there limping like the first time because I'll tell you, it wrenched my back
My
something
gosh.
awful. It's funny now, but it sort of tempered the excitement of the Disneyland Day trip that time. Yeah, but it's unlike anything I had ever ridden at that point.
Right.
You're in this huge Jeep. I I literally just learned how that thing works by watching the behind the attraction
Hmm.
episode that is about this ride. I thought it was on a track this entire time. Ends up
Yeah,
that
you
it's
thought you were
not.
actually, like, shifting in the Jeep
Yeah.
and leaning each way, right?
And then, the hydraulics and how that thing moves it literally was like nothing I had ever ridden before. So, yeah, aside from the wrenched back, it was just an absolute thrill. Just a great thrill.
Were you, like, shocked at first? Like, "Man, this hurt my back." Like, did it take away from the
Yeah.
enjoyment a little bit? You're like, "Man, this
Like,
isn't as fun as I thought it would be. My back's hurting."
thankfully, I was in my 20s, so you can recover pretty quickly from that.
Yeah.
But now I'm well into my 40s, and I go in there prepared. I don't know if I have an opportunity to tell this story and down our conversation, but I have to share with you.
Mhm.
Probably the second time I rode it. It was when I was a dad, and
Uh-huh.
Caleb and Luke were born, and we had started taking them to Disneyland. And Luke was one of the smaller kids in his age level. He hit
Uh-huh.
his
Okay.
growth spurt like in high school, but we're talking like he was probably like 4, 5, 6 years old. And every when we would go on our yearly trip down there, he desperately wanted to ride this ride. Like he just loved the idea of it,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we would go up, and it seemed like every single year he just got shot down by that height monitor thing, that
Yeah.
line, if you got to be above this line. And we would walk up to him with the biggest hopes, and oh,
You're
sorry
like, "Is
buddy,
this the
one more
year?"
year we're gonna
No.
have to.
Oh.
And one year he literally was like, just it seemed like an inch below it, and they wouldn't budge, and we're, oh. So the one year that he finally grew and he was old enough was just, it's a highlight for me, and I
Oh, I
always think
love it.
about, and it was this ride because he wanted so badly to write it, and he had to wait years to do it. So it was intensely satisfying when he did.
It was like the proudest moment you've ever had to get your back blown out.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, the back issue was earlier, so I was prepared at that point, so I
You're
could
like, "I gotta
enjoy
wear a
his.
back brace when I go on this ride. I gotta
I
fully
was telling
strap
him,
in."
guys, start doing the exercises now because you got to be ready for this thing.
You gotta, like, ask for, like, I guess, like, the seat in the front that has the wheel, so you have the extra thing to hold on rather than just the padding space in front.
I have never thought about that. I will have to give that a try. I definitely will.
I think that, that's awesome. You went from, like, almost tearing your back apart the first time, and now it's like a great family adventure to be like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, remember when you finally you grew big enough and we were able to ride together? Like, what a proud moment that you have." I love that.
and I didn't break my back in this time,
And
so it's a win-win situation.
everyone gets a churro. We
Yeah,
survived.
yeah. Let's go get some Dole Whip to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Head right over to the tiki room and have a great time.
Absolutely, you know right where it's at.
Yep, yep. Or a nice casual ride on the Jungle Cruise right afterwards.
To recover.
To recover, exactly. Just sit nicely on the bench and just
Listen to some cheesy puns.
That's right. Have a good time. Um, so for me, I was 2 days old when this ride opened in Disneyland. So I did not ride it for many years. It would be Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, first time that I've been to Los Angeles and the Los Angeles area, and to Disneyland would be the first time that I rode this. And with the opportunity to go to Star Wars Celebration over in Anaheim and tack on a few days before and after to go to Disneyland was a great opportunity. And knowing that this ride existed there was like the top thing that I wanted to do when I was there. Well, actually, at that point, I had not been to Galaxy's Edge either. So this was a first of many for
Wow.
me, was to experience both that and to ride Rise of the Resistance and Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, get some blue milk, create a lightsaber. There was a lot of things on the to-do list, but once those things were accomplished, we immediately hightailed it over to the Indiana Jones adventure because it's a ride that breaks down a lot.
That's true.
Not only is it 30 years old at this point, but there's a lot of moving parts in this thing. and when they don't operate well, it kind of takes it out of the ride, from what I understand. So, you want to make sure that when you ride it, that it's working at peak efficiency. And
Absolutely.
I gotta tell you, it was everything I wanted it to be, and then some. This ride has a reputation of being amazing, and it lives up to that reputation as well. We have a ride in Florida called Dinosaur, based off of the 1999 2000 film called Dinosaur, Disney
Hmm.
animation. Um, Over here in the Animal Kingdom, and it's the same exact like ride formula and track.
Okay.
Um, so I was prepared for the herky jerky nature of it all and the sudden starts and stops of the Jeep. So definitely was prepared. My back was as well for that. Um, but to have the added thing of the Indiana Jones IP attached to it, and I think this is a ride, the way they designed it and that technology that they used for it with the Jeep as well fits the Indy brand as well. Like you're in kind of this temple, this jungle, this religious space. It just kind of works with the whole overall thing that they're trying to do with Indy. And we've talked when we had you on to chat about the Indiana Jones films about my journey with this
Yes.
character and how this is something that come to appreciate later in life because of reasons. And
Yeah.
to be able to experience this ride with that fully like completing the circle, if you will, of like the things I needed to do to fully complete my Indiana Jones fandom. I think this was perfect. Ironically, the people that told me I wasn't allowed to watch those films back in the day, had their honeymoon in Disneyland, and promptly rode the ride a few times and loved it. And they were like, "This is great," and I was like, "You people, how dare you?" So truly a wonderful time. But Colby, as someone like you said, you've been to the park a few times. You saw the changes throughout the years. So, in your opinion, what did the addition of this ride in the mid '90s bring to Disneyland? Did it alter the quote unquote aura of the park at all? So let's start with there.
I of course it changed. It changed. I don't know that it changed anything physically, really, because as you know, because you've seen it,
Hmm.
the entrance to this ride is very well hidden. You could miss it
Yes.
if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, it's down
And
like a
honestly,
hill and all that. You have to really hunt it.
yeah, I mean it's literally right next to Jungle Cruise, but you're expecting like to be able to this thing is hidden so well.
Hmm.
It's scary. And if you're not looking for that entrance, you're gonna walk by it. And I have like literally the first few times I went to Disneyland after this existed, I didn't even know where it was. Right? I
You had to remind
because
yourself.
I had to find it on the map. I'm like, wait a minute, where do we go? Because right there, you sort of have like, if you're coming from like the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, you sort of
Hmm.
have an opportunity to turn right or turn left. Left sort of takes you off to like to stick to where the rivers of America are, and then
Right.
it's going to take you over to like Frontierland. But then to the right is Adventureland and the Jungle Cruise and some places to
Hmm.
eat and a little
Hey, that Bengal
place to buy
barbecue. Yep.
stuff. Yeah, and I'm telling you, there are so many trees and like so many different kinds of trees.
Yeah,
If you're not looking for that entrance, you're going to walk right by it. You just don't know because the entire queue is also hidden. So you don't
sure
have like
is.
a long lineup of people like you see for Haunted Mansion or any of the other rides really, because you see the queue forever.
Hmm.
So it didn't change to me. It didn't change Adventureland at all because of how well
Yeah.
designed and hidden it is. But what it did do was it sort of like, and the behind the attraction episode also touched on this,
Hmm.
that it's a great example of what Michael Eisner did during his time as CEO, because he was bringing in the outside of the box thinking.
Right.
He was sort of the guy that spearheaded the Star Tours, which was the first non-Disney IP to
Yeah.
be in Disneyland. So this was another example of that, a non-Disney IP that is now being represented in Disneyland. So
Right.
again, referencing Star Tours and Indiana Jones, super in my wheelhouse. That's what it did for me. Was it's just bringing, you before Star Tours, you went to Disneyland because you wanted to go to Disneyland and you were a
Hmm.
Disney
Hmm.
fan and you wanted to celebrate Disney things. But these two things alone, about 8 years apart, they're opening it up to bigger things and non-Disney type of ideas, but still
Yeah.
things that people adore and love and want to celebrate. So for me, that's what it did it for. And of course, because it's Indiana Jones, it was very exciting for me to experience.
Yeah, I mean that is a natural segue into my next question here, which is why do you think like Indiana Jones is a good fit with Disneyland or the Disney brand itself too?
Yeah, to me, it just because it's a Lucasfilm property, and of
Hmm.
course, George Lucas. Um, Lucas and Spielberg, specifically if we're talking about Indiana Jones, I feel like those two men and the stories that they tell, they share a creative DNA with Walt Disney himself.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
they do it in a very different way,
Right.
but it's still the same kind of thing. It's the wonder. It's the escapism, the adventure, the world
Sure.
building that these people have been able to accomplish, rooted in core values that not Americans or Southern
Mm.
Californians or Floridians, but humans can relate to, right?
Right.
These stories that they tell, they're just so relatable. So for me, it's a match made in Disneyland, right?
Mhm.
These
Mhm.
these are stories that just sort of fit hand in glove. And I know I've never been to Disney World, and I know a lot of the
Oh,
parks have a lot of the different IPs from
yeah.
across, like Hollywood Studios is a good example of that, I believe. But they all share the kind of things that Walt Disney wanted to do, which was just give you a break of from reality, but not disconnect from things that are important. And
Mhm.
I feel like Indiana Jones helped to bolster that roster, right?
Yes. And it frankly is like an e-ticket attraction that is desperately needed for the park at that time, right? Like,
Yes,
Space Mountain and Big Thunder Mountain are big, and Splash Mountain too at that time, but you need that extra kick to keep people going, to keep them coming back to the park. Like, I think
it's
the
a good
one of the
point.
best thing that Walt Disney was always like, Disneyland is never finished. We've
Yep,
seen even changes since the last 30 years now, additions and subtractions to the park, etc. But you got to keep pushing the envelope, adding new technologies, thinking of ways outside the box. And I think that with the adventure nature and aspect that Indiana Jones is, and it's central to the core of the adventure that he is on, the action hero, the original action hero, it fits perfectly in this era.
well, and you also bring up a really good point about updating the park,
Mm-hmm.
because I did mention, like they opened Mickey's Toontown,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. It wasn't really on my radar at that time. It's
As I
great
say, when
for
you had young
families and
kids, it was great.
when you have young kids, exactly. And then Roger Rabbit, I loved as a kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun movie. But I don't even think I've ever ridden the ride. And
Really?
then yeah, Splash Mountain was cool because it was like the first type of you're gonna get soaked at Disneyland,
Oh my
which
god,
had
you
not
get soaked
existed.
there, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you had other parks like Magic Mountain here locally, which is about half an hour north of me. They had like the thrill rides and the we're going to
Mm-hmm.
soak you on this water ride, but Disneyland didn't have that. So you
Okay.
had to add these kinds of things to sort of keep up with the Joneses, for
Yeah,
lack of a better
sure.
phrase, in the industry. And Indiana Jones was definitely a step in the right direction. You have this entire department of Imagineers, and they're working on technology. You got to do something with it, right? So this is a
Find the IP that works
manifestation
with it.
of all that work. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, could you imagine, like, it's hard to imagine, frankly, I'll answer my own question, but it's hard to imagine a time without, like, the more let's just say California Adventure is exactly that. It's adventurous, right? Like, there are more thrill rides there than Disneyland, right? California Screamin' is not, or the Incredicoaster nowadays
The
is like,
Incredicoaster. Yeah.
it's not over in Disneyland. It's probably the most thrilling ride. Or Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, right? Formerly
Yep.
Tower of Terror.
Yep.
All these incredible, like, these are things that keep pushing the envelope of, like, you got to meet the needs of the current times and what people are asking for, and Imagineers are going to keep thinking and creating new ideas, which is awesome because we get, as the recipients, get to experience these new adventures and these new immersive lands. And frankly, like you were saying already, the Indiana Jones adventure might be the first time, or like you said, the cue, you feel you're immersed in this story as soon as you walk in. You first off, you find the ride, which kind of is a cool Indiana Jones thing itself. Like, it shouldn't be easy to find. Like, that kind of just that tracks. It shouldn't be
you have to be
huge sign that says
you have
Temple
to
of
have you have
Forbidden
to be an
Eye.
archaeologist to find the attraction itself.
Exactly. Yeah, and you gotta go this entire long distance to get there. You have to literally go underground. They're taking you under a parking lot outside of
Yep.
Disneyland. Technically, you're
Yep.
in a room outside of the park, in a almost like, all these feet away from the actual park itself, which is wild. You have no
It's
idea
fascinating. It's fascinating.
how they're able to do these mystical illusions with our minds while we're trying to have fun at the same time. So like the
Yep.
science behind it is really cool. And then you're off on this grand adventure. You're in Adventureland. You're a part of this, and you can have this grand adventure. Get off, like we said, and go ride the Jungle Cruise and have a vastly different adventure. And then get off and go ride pirates, and you're having a grand old time.
Yeah. And then keep walking down and get in a haunted house, and which is I love that ride because it gives you a break. You get to sit in a
Yes,
very
nice air
cool,
conditioned
dark
room.
space. Yeah, and just sort of have a story told to you after having this huge adventure down on the way there. So yeah, it's
And then keep
great.
walking up that same path. Somehow you'll end up in Bat too,
Yep.
and have your own Star
Yes.
Wars adventure. Again, it all comes
That's
full
right.
circle. And I think it's funny too that in a way that Michael Eisner ipso facto kind of prophesized that eventually they would own these properties by
Yeah.
including them in Disneyland. He's like, well, bringing Star Tours here. Star Wars fits with the Disney brand. Indiana Jones fits too. Let's keep it all in the fold here. Eventually, we will just own it all.
Yes. We'll just fold it under our umbrella. I got a text message from my best friend the day that Disney bought Lucasfilm.
Hmm.
And after because in the text message, I almost remember it word for word. He says, Disney bought Lucasfilm. They're making episode 9, 10, 7, 8, and 9. They're going to add things to the parks. And it was like, I was at work and I just looked at my phone because it buzzed. And I'm going, what was I just smacked in the face with? What is this? Are you trolling me? Are you joking? What is this?
Don't tempt me with a good
Immediately,
time.
yeah, immediately went to Google and started Googling it and saw the news articles. And then, but when the excitement died down, I thought to myself, of course, this makes perfect sense. I mean, the
Hmm.
relationship between Disney and Lucasfilm goes
It's
all
already
the way
there.
back to before Star Tours. So, yeah, it just makes so much sense.
Agreed. Agreed. It does make sense, and it is brand synergy. Why not? They're going to keep doing it.
Yep.
So many people, myself included, would say that the Indiana Jones Adventure is their favorite ride at Disneyland. Why do you think the ride has been held in such high esteem 30 years later now?
I didn't realize how much people adore this ride
Hmm.
until I started listening to people like yourself
Yeah,
and our friend Dan Zare from Coffee with Kenobi and so many Corey Club as well. I'm like,
sure.
wow, I've always been an indie fan, but I didn't realize how the heights of super fandom that this
Hmm.
character has reached. And it really translates into this ride too, because people adore this ride.
They
And I
do.
think it's because of the adventure aspect of it. You
Hmm.
really do feel like you're in an Indiana Jones story. It's not just a
No,
roller coaster.
absolutely.
You're experiencing an adventure with Indiana
Hmm.
Jones. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Um, Going back to sort of like the queue and the immersive experience of the ride, it's almost like a father or a grandfather. It's definitely a forefather
Hmm.
to what we now see in Galaxy's Edge and rides
Oh yeah.
like Rise of the Resistance specifically. Like, I am happy to wait an hour to ride Rise of the Resistance because of that queue,
It's
and
perfect.
it doesn't exist without Indiana Jones. So
Hmm.
I think that contributes to it too. And then you may not have to you don't even need to understand how these things work, but you just understand you're experiencing innovation and
Hmm.
creativity. They've kept it timely because they've gone through and updated it with newer technology, and you experience that in that ride. And I think all of this combined just makes people want to go back and do it again and again and again.
Yeah, this ride, I will say, feel when you watch the films, right? You can go on this ride and have a great time without knowing any of the films, and I think you'll still have a good time. But when you have the added
100%.
enrichment of watching all the films, you're like, you kind of get the best of all of them in this soup here. That is the Indiana Jones adventure, right? You walk through the
100.
queue and you
Yep.
feel like you're in that opening scene of Raiders walking through, and you're going to find the fertility idol at some point. Oh, hey, look, there's Sala warning you, don't look in the eye.
Yeah.
Take heed. And then you get in this, and it kind of feels like a little bit of the mine cart sequence and Temple of Doom, and maybe a little bit of like the tank sequence in Last Crusade. So like you're just mixing all that together here in this fun adventure, and you're like, oh hey, look, don't look in the eye. Oh crap, I looked. Oh, we're going on this adventure now. Oh, there's
Turn
Indy.
left.
Turn left.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Oh, there's and you're right. Seeing Indy at the various points in the ride does make you feel like you are with Indy on this adventure. I'm not
Yep.
Indy, but I am Anthony King in this Jeep with my buddy Indiana Jones, and we're trying to escape this Temple of Peril together.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's you bringing up Indy makes me think about, with all of the innovation and as modern as it is, of an experience or an attraction, it still has those throwbacks to the older kinds of rides,
Hmm.
because there are a couple of stretches of the ride where you're going through something that you could compare to, like, Peter Pan. You're a vehicle driving through a room, and
Hmm.
there's cool
Hmm.
things to see and do, but it's not necessarily like a thrill going through that section of it, right?
Yeah.
Indiana Jones is not some kind of a digital projection or a ultra 4K image on a wall
Yeah.
somewhere, or 3D. It's an animatronic,
Literally. Yep.
which, right? And he never moves. He's either hanging on the rope, or he's opening the door telling you to turn, or trying to close the door telling you to turn left. There's one
Hmm.
other, after the whole boulders situation, you go down and you see him, and you see the crushed boulder behind him, and he's
Yep.
like
He's
just
like,
sort of like
oh, another
trying to catch
day.
his breath, right? But this harkens back to the innovations that Walt Disney created with his first animatronic,
Hmm.
mannequins, or whatever you want, puppets. They're not puppets,
Sure.
but like the Abraham Lincoln situation with the president's thing on Main Street. But my point is that there are still throwbacks
Hmm.
to that kind of roller coaster, or that kind of attraction, but
Yeah.
they've modernized it in other ways too.
Right.
So I think that's part of the appeal as well.
I'm gonna yes and you to all that. I mean, that's brilliant. But I think ultimately the indie story just resonates across time. This is a timeless story.
Yeah.
People love these films. They love. I mean, it just goes to show you that formula that Spielberg and Lucas tried to emulate again. That B movie action serial from the 1930s. It was popular in the 30s for a reason. It was
Yeah.
popular in the 80s for a reason. And it's still popular today for a reason too. People just like that
Yeah.
fun adventure.
And I also can't deny the Harrison Ford impact of it all too,
Sure
because
can't.
I mean, it's a great story, it's a great character. Maybe it's a good story and a good character, but Harrison Ford is what makes it great, right? The way he embodies him, so that gives it the legacy that it's ended up having,
Right.
is the
Well,
Harrison Ford factor. You can't deny it.
I think we've seen many of us have seen the Tom Selleck audition tape for Indy.
As a
And
matter of fact, I haven't, but
oh,
I'll believe that
when you're
it's
done
out
with
there.
this, there's a full audition tape you can find
Oh, I
online
love it. Okay.
with him doing lines from Raiders when he was originally cast in the role, and then thankfully he was I will say thankfully I like Harrison in the role, so
Yes.
thankfully he had a TV engagement that he wasn't able to get out of, and then that forced them to go to Harrison, which was kind of you know they have a revisionist history sometimes about how they talk about these things. And George is like, well, I've always wanted
Absolutely.
him to be Indiana Jones. And then we were like, oh, he's Han Solo. We can't have him. We'll just have him read lines. And he was perfect for it, but we can't have him be it. So we'll have Tom Selleck be it. Oh, Tom can't do it. I guess we'll just go to Harrison. Anywho, um, whatever way they want to spin it, Harrison is Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford. And I think
I I
that's
think it
exactly right.
I think it worked out for both of them.
I don't think they're either are mad about how history panned
Nope,
out.
not at all.
So when you go to the park today, you're doing a family weekend down at Disneyland. How important is it to have this ride on your itinerary list? Are you making a beeline for it upon entry? Are you rope dropping this thing? Or is it just a nice to have in your park day, knowing that you may have to brace yourself with the back trouble that may result afterwards?
I've solved the back trouble. I have figured that part out. It, it is it is a 100% must ride. It is one that we definitely ride every time we go to the parks.
Hmm.
And like I said, we're not living there on the weekends, right? We're
Yeah.
not annual pass holders, but we do visit strategically. So this is one that is definitely one that has to be experienced when we're there. That said, it wasn't always the case, because
Mm.
the waits were so long
Well,
before
that would be
Lightning
a
Lane and Genie
detractor.
Plus.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's you're literally taking time away from other things.
Time is
But
money.
now, time is money, especially when you're at Disneyland.
Hmm.
So now that, with the advent of, the back in the day, Fast Pass, and now Lightning Lanes, the Genie Plus aspect of things, we 100% ride it, because
Hmm.
we do Genie Plus and we do get the Lightning lanes. And Indy is always one that we say, okay, let's find where it's available, what time's available, and we're going. And that really does help. Number
Hmm.
one, the Lightning lane takes you past all the outside queue, and when you're
Yeah,
going to when you're going in July, that's
a
very
little toasty.
helpful because it is quite toasty. But as far as the beeline aspect of things, the only thing I make a beeline to at Disneyland, we go right down Main Street. We take a left at the Jolly Holiday Cafe, past the Tiki Room, past the Jungle Cruise, past Indy, past Pirates, past Haunted House, past what is now Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which I haven't ridden but I want to, and straight to Rise of the Resistance. That's the my
Gotta
beeline.
get it in.
That
Yep.
is, we just zoom, 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 and we're there. We do the whole Galaxy's Edge, and then once Galaxy's Edge is done, then we start to make our way into other parts of the park. But yeah, Indy will definitely 100% of the time is something we want to get on while we're there.
Yeah. When it was, do you remember the paper fast passes?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
When those were still a thing, and you had younger kids at that time, did you
yes.
like have them run? Were they in charge of running to get the paper fast passes for everybody?
We were very much don't leave our side,
Fair
children.
enough. Okay.
We didn't have the cool little backpacks with the cord attached or
The
anything, but we
leashes.
definitely, it was definitely hands in our hands. So we made
Hmm.
our way to the fast pass kiosks, and I'll tell you, Anthony, if you didn't make a beeline to those,
Say that was a different
you're
strategy back then.
you're out of luck. They'd be gone, especially for the big ticket items,
Hmm.
the attractions. You wouldn't be able to get them because you
Nope.
didn't get to the kiosk in time. And I'm so glad they've gone electronic. And of course, technology had to catch up, right? But this is an infinitely better system now because when you go to Disneyland, you don't want to make your first stop some robot where you have to push buttons and get a ticket out of to ride a ride, right? They
To
did
ride
the
a
best they
ride to
could.
ride it at 11 p.m. that night, right? Because you got there a little
Exactly.
later than everybody, and they all took them.
Yeah. So really, and that's part of the strategic approach we have is like when we'll save up and we'll budget to be able to get the extra. I think it's called Genie Plus, right?
Yep.
Where you get the free photos, which we have a
Hmm.
million of, and we can never not have enough, right?
Nope.
Just keep
You never
keep it
know
up.
what you're gonna get. They're just fun.
And then the fast pass or whatever, the lightning lanes now through that option, and we have even sprung for the $25 like we really want to ride Spidey. We
Exactly.
really
This
want
is
to
the
ride
special
Spidey.
one. Yep. Or
Yeah,
Rise of
we're
Resistance has that too,
Rise of
right?
the Resistance is also one that we'll do that for. But again, it's the strategic nature of that, making sure that the budget is there. If that weren't the case, then maybe we have to be a little bit more particular with where we're spending our time in line. But yeah, that's how we handle things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the system too, personally. I think it's great because then you can, like you said, strategically devote your time to other things, right? You can enjoy some of the subtleties of Disneyland a bit more, or Disney World, right? You can have a
Uh-huh.
churro and sit on a bench and just enjoy people walking by and just take in the sights and smells and sounds of everything and then go, okay, in 20 minutes, I have my lightning lane. I'll just hang around here and enjoy.
Yep. Yep. The last time that I went to Disneyland was springtime of last year, so 2024, and it was my
Hmm.
wife and I, and it's just the
Nice.
two of us. It was only the second time we had gone without our kids. Now our kids are in their
Ah,
20s, so going to Disneyland is way different than before. But my wife and I went to. We're high school sweethearts, so we've been
hmm.
together since high school. So we went to grad night because after
Okay.
we graduated, you go from graduation, you kill a few hours, and then you go back to school, get on a
It's
bus,
a
and
big
you
deal in
drive to
Southern
Disneyland.
California at grad night.
It is. It's a huge, huge thing, and it's a great experience. It's so much fun. It's exhausting, I will tell you,
Yeah.
even for high school seniors. But that was the first time we went to Disneyland by ourselves. Then we didn't go by ourselves again until like 2 years ago, and we were looking around, going, "This is sort of cool. Like this is
we're
really
we're
nice."
big kids again. We got
We
this.
could just go where we want and not have to worry about where do the kids want to go or where are the kids.
That's right.
And
And we got
this
money this
last
time. We
yeah,
can
yeah, that's true. This last time that we went, we literally just rode the train around the entire park,
love it.
which we had never done. We got off the train and we sat right there on Main Street. We sat on a bench and we watched people gathering to for the parade that was going to be
Mhm.
coming down, where people line up, and we watched the character interactions. We sat there for 45 minutes because we had a lightning lane for something that was about an hour away. Said, you know what, we're just going to sit here
Just
and we're
enjoy
going
it.
to watch this parade. And it was magical. Like pun absolutely intended. Magical. Magical.
That's a wonderful story and a great memory that you always cherish, right?
Never forget it.
Never
We'll
forget
never
it,
forget it. It was
indeed.
great. Yeah. It's terrific.
Now, back to Indy. Is there anything about this ride that you would maybe fix or alter?
Yes, I'd make it less jerky.
Make it smoother?
A
Apparently,
little
the one
smoother.
in Tokyo is a bit smoother.
I wrote that down too because I caught the same thing that you're mentioning. So I guess they have a little bit updated technology.
Yeah.
And they were talking about like how the vehicles communicate with the computers and how it navigates, makes it a
Hmm.
little smoother. I want to experience that. Like I want to go to Japan and ride this ride just to experience
I
that.
think it's
So
worth the flight out there, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
It's called Temple of the Crystal Skull too. I mean, it's not connected to
Yeah,
the Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull film, but
yeah.
sign me up. It might be close. I'll make it close enough.
And just beyond the less jerky part, which is just sort of a joke, but also not sort of a joke, just I would say just keep the updates coming,
Hmm.
because as anything, as technology comes out, you want to keep things relevant, right?
Yeah.
So, as you start seeing the age of some of these rides, as you tend to do, you
Hmm.
just got to stop and refurbish and update technology. And they've done a great job with this, because I know they did that about maybe 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
in the 20 teens, I think it was. And they did a great job. So whatever that means down the road, again, keep that up.
Keep it
Don't
going.
abandon it. Like it's a popular one for a reason, so keep it popular.
I think them having the animatronics as a thing where you don't really see the Indy's face at all. Like it's not like you're plastered and you see Harrison Ford's face. You kind of just like
Yeah.
get like side glimpses of him in the hat, of course, and the back of him. I think kind of doing that made it super more timeless than they ever
Uh-huh.
anticipated, because
Yeah.
a modern trend I see on a lot of rides, and if you've ridden Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway down at Disneyland, where they just kind of project onto faces now. They kind
Uh-huh.
of do like a visual and then project it onto like a body. Like it'll be like a face that's empty, and then they'll project
Yeah.
an image on it.
Yeah.
Um, that seems more dated, almost like 2 days after they do that, than the Indiana Jones adventure. Right? There's something
I agree with you.
absolutely timeless about this ride.
Yeah.
And yeah, make minor fixes here and there, but ultimately don't change a thing.
At its core, it's the story, like we've been saying, and keep it at its core, and just make sure, keep the paint job fresh.
Yeah.
Don't try to reinvent the wheel, and just do what it does, because these films have lasted decades for a reason.
Hmm.
So this ride should do the same thing, theoretically.
Now, are you more on this? Let me rephrase this question here. Are you happier that it is not connected to the films, or do you wish that it was like a scene from Raiders, or like let's say it was exactly um, the mine car sequence in Temple of Doom?
Temple of Doom. I like that it has elements of that, but
Hmm.
I prefer it being its own thing, right? It's a
Yeah.
standalone. You're on an adventure with Indy, and you're experiencing it in a unique way. I feel like if you try to recreate a scene from a movie or something like that, then you're going to be in the movie and not on the ride anymore.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I think that's one of the best parts of it, is that unique adventure feel.
Yeah, it allows you to have separate adventures, right? It doesn't
Yes.
like you get your Raiders adventure when you watch Raiders, but you get your
Mhm.
Indiana Jones adventure, Temple of the Forbidden Eye, when you ride Temple of the Forbidden Eye. That's why
Yeah.
I'm such a big proponent of Batu not kind of being like a Star Wars land, but this
Hmm.
era that takes place in between episodes 8 and 5, where you get to experience this part of Star Wars when you're in Batu.
Yes.
It's not like
Yeah.
you are on Mustafar and you're seeing Anakin and Obi. Like Star Tours does that. You can ride
Yes.
Star Tours, and that's great for that. It has the total vibe and
It
jovial
is.
nature that requires that. But when you're in the depths of Batu, and you're like, okay, this big battle is happening just up in the sky above this planet here. like this is a big important sequence here that I'm a part of, and I get to have my own Star Wars adventure here, and I don't
Yep.
feel like I'm just watching someone else have their story.
I think that's so well said, and it's so much better than what I've done here when I say it shares that creative DNA
Hmm.
with Indiana Jones and Galaxy's Edge. With both of these places, these, whether it's the land or the attractions in the land or
Hmm.
Indy as
Hmm.
the attraction, you're walking into and out of a moment of time that you don't
Yes.
get to do anywhere else.
Yeah.
Not in a movie theater, not in your living room, anywhere else, and it's just there, and it adds to the just that really unique experience and feeling, and
Yeah.
one of the reasons why it's so popular and enduring.
And frankly, it's a reason to go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like you
100%.
can't get this experience anywhere else. So
No.
get that flight, get that train ticket, get in the car, go to Disneyland
And it's a reason to go to Tokyo Disney and Paris
and
Disney because
Tokyo
they have
and
their own
back.
versions of this, and it's not just a carbon copy of one of what you see here. It's another unique experience. Yeah, so yeah, they sort of know what they're doing there at the Disney, don't they?
They sure do. It's like they got smart people in charge. I don't know.
A
So that's
few.
perfect segue again. What do you think like the future of this ride entails? Will it kind of remain as is forever?
Yeah.
Or do you
Just
hope that it will
to
remain
just
as is forever, I guess is the better
Well, just to
question.
reiterate the same that what we just talked about, which is, yeah, don't change it. Don't change the core of it. Just keep it, keep that paint job fresh, whether it's through the technology or literally the
Hmm.
paint on the walls.
Hmm.
Um, but I had no idea that if we're talking about Indy in Disneyland specifically, I had no idea that there was an Indiana Jones stunt show in
That's a
in
reason to come
Disney
to
World,
Orlando.
and when I saw that in that behind the attraction episode, I was like, I want to experience this. My first question was, because they started talking about when it started there,
Hmm.
and my first question was, is it still there? And thankfully they
Oh,
answered, and the answer is
absolutely.
yes. I
Absolutely.
want to see this thing. So I'm greedy. I want it in my backyard. So do it at Disneyland
Bring it
or
over.
a new version of it or something in Disneyland. There's nowhere really to put it, but maybe, build it. I would love that because they have stunt shows at like Universal Studios,
Hmm.
which I
The
also haven't been
Waterworld
to in
stunt
a long.
show, right?
They're incredible. I love that. It's like live action in front of you
Hmm.
performance. It's
Oh,
amazing.
Colby, if you
Um,
love that, you will adore the Indiana Jones epic stunt show. It's spectacular.
oh, I'm gonna have to start a budget for a Disney World trip.
I think, yeah, you gotta make that flight across the country. It's worth it.
The other thing, and I actually am surprised at myself here because basically I would love to see an Indiana Jones character experience. Like, give me
Mm,
Indy walking around. And I didn't always feel that way because to me, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones.
yeah,
And seeing someone else, which I'm sure is going to do a great job, he's not Harrison Ford.
right.
But having experienced seeing characters walking around Avengers Campus has totally
Kind of rocks.
180-degree changed my mind because it's awesome.
Hmm.
Like, I don't care that Loki doesn't look like Tom Hiddleston because that guy does a great job,
Who
right? Like,
cares? There's
I
the
don't, I
outfit.
don't,
It's good enough.
yeah, I don't care that the Wakandans walking around are not the actors and actresses from the Dora Milaje.
Hmm.
They're doing a magnificent job, like so good. So I have no doubt. Also, in addition to that, I got to see Sabine in Galaxy's
That's
Edge.
right.
uh Amazing, incredible. She does a great job. Everybody does. I haven't gotten to see Ahsoka yet. uh I think she's still around. Hopefully I can get to meet her someday. But Ray is a good example.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
Ray and Galaxy's Edge does a magnificent job. So you know what? Why not? Give us Indy. Give us an Indy character experience. That would be a lot of fun, I
So
think.
they have a character experience, or at least they had one. Let me just preface that. So when Dial
Oh,
of Destiny came out, they had for like a month, they had just a random indie guy walking around.
I
Uh,
didn't know that. Well,
and
now I want him
he
every
was
day, not
he was
just
just
to
hanging out in
market
front
them.
of the unmarked opening for the ride, and it was just like, "Hey there, how you doing?" And come ride the ride, that kind of thing. And then I don't know if you're aware, but they do like themed night. So like they'll do like a Star Wars night,
Mhm.
grad night, of course. So it's kind of that similar vein where it's like a
Yeah,
one night, one off kind of deal.
yeah.
I think in February they've done like a Sweethearts night for like
Oh,
in like around Valentine's Day, and they
yeah.
had a Indian Marion meet and greet that was a part of
I
that. So
I did not know that. Okay, all right.
they're already
Well,
forward thinking, like these Imagineers. They're already if there's a will, there's a way, and if there's a dollar to be made, they will find it.
that's it right there. Are people gonna pay to come see Indy? If the answer is yes, then we're gonna have Indy.
So with the fervor there is an interest. People, they'll make it happen.
Yeah, you know what? That's great. I didn't know that it was in like sort of these special occasions, but I would totally love it if it was just a constant thing. Like, just give me
Yeah,
an. I
all the
I want
time.
to walk up to something. I want to walk up to him with something and have him say that belongs in a museum.
That'd be great. You imagine walking around with like your lightsaber that you just built over at Savi's workshop or something like
How
that, and then
incredible
he's
would be
like,
that'd be
"What is
awesome.
that? It belongs in the museum. How dare you? Come on!"
Or could you imagine if Chewbacca got out of Galaxy's Edge, or if
And
Indy
he's
got
like, "What are
into
you doing?"
Galaxy's Edge? It'd be like the Spider-Man meme, sort of like,
Perfect.
but a different one. Like, what's going? Who? I think I know you.
That would be hysterical. I would love that. That'd be
Great.
incredible. Someone needs to do that, just like in Disneyland. Like, I'm sure it's possible. Someone behind the scenes just take a picture like that, because they're like
See,
very specific. Like, you can't go beyond this door.
now you're making me want to do an Indiana Jones cosplay, and I'll walk into Galaxy's Edge, and I'll do that myself with Chewbacca.
That's right. What are we waiting on Disney to make? You can make this happen right now.
Could you imagine the photo op right there?
Just get down the, get your stuff together, go down the highway, and
There's one problem. There
what's
is
that?
one problem.
Traffic on
I
the
have
on the I-10.
there's more than one problem. The main problem is I could never Indiana Jones cosplay because I have a beard, and this beard is not coming off, and Indiana Jones does not have a beard.
Hey, he gets a little scruffy,
It's true.
Whoa, whoa,
It's
whoa!
true.
Now, no, now, in Indiana Jones, in the Young Indy Adventures, there's an episode where Harrison Ford appears as older Indy and has a beard.
There it is.
So it's already a thing.
There it is. I could be old Indy.
It's
See, how
perfect.
old was he? Because that shows a while, a few. It's old. It's an old show, so maybe he's around 50.
I think it'd be roughly the
Which,
same time frame. Yeah,
all right, maybe I could pull off old Indiana Jones and walk up to Chewbacca and
we're on
ask for
something
a
here.
hug.
And then if people know about it, it's a real deep cut, and you can be like, you guys rock."
And let me tell you, if you haven't gotten a hug from Chewbacca, get a hug from Chewbacca.
It'll change your
I
world.
it, I got one, and it does. It changes your world.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And I will say I'm thrilled because they just announced at D23 last year that they're bringing Indy here. So I mentioned that they have the dinosaur ride here at Walt Disney World that has the same track. And they're literally overhauling that ride to then bring Indiana Jones here. It won't be the same as Temple of the Forbidden Eye, but it will be that same type of Jeep thing. It's supposed to
Okay,
be like take
well,
place in South America. We'll see more details eventually, but they're working on that
that
right now.
that's great news, and it gives you time to start doing some back exercises.
That's right. That's right. Get start doing some rowing exercises, just anything to get the back up and running.
Exactly, because you got to be ready.
Yeah, I will say for Disneyland too, the last thing that I think that I would love to see there is like a indie food related thing, like a restaurant, just some type of experience that not necessarily a quick service, but maybe a quick service. I don't know, but I feel like with all of Indy's adventures and world travels, like he has eaten a lot of stuff along the especially Temple of Doom has showcased a lot of food items in that one scene, and I think that would be a fun experience for people to like not only just experience your Indy adventure, but also to eat your Indy adventure as well.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm not sure I would order every menu
You don't want
item, if you
monkey
know what I
chilled monkey
mean.
brains?
Not interested in that, or the eyeball soup, but I think that the potential for some fun to be had
Yeah.
on in that restaurant, it's a great idea. So, hey, Imagineering, if you're listening, make it happen.
I agree. I agree. Well, they kind of have that here at Walt Disney World, but it's like loosely affiliated. They call it Jock Lindsay's
Mm,
Hangar Bar. It's over in what we call downtown Disney. Um,
yeah, I've heard of it.
and it's I haven't eaten there yet, honestly. To be frank, I don't. I'm a picky eater, and there's some menu items on there that I'm like, I could eat somewhere else. But eventually I'll get there and I'll experience it. And there's a lot of Easter eggs apparently inside too. So kind of bring that mentality over to Disneyland. That'd be cool.
That's a great idea. I really do, and they're going to be building a lot, so why not
A lot of
make an
changes
Indy
coming.
restaurant?
That's right.
Yeah,
Take advantage of it while you can, guys. Well, Colby, this has been an absolute blast chatting about all things Indiana Jones Adventure. 30 years. Where did the time go? Who knows? Who knows? Folks, pretty soon
time.
we'll be talking 60 years of this ride, and hopefully we are talking 60 years of this ride, because it's still is like an hour wait every day.
Yep, time flies when you're not paying attention. I tell you, and
It sure
I could
does.
not believe that it was a 30-year anniversary when we started talking about this. I said,
When they said,
"Whoa,
"Hey,
30
Colby, you want to
years!"
chat about this thing? It's 30 years old." You're like, "What?
My
How'd that
back
happen?"
started hurting again.
In a different way.
Yeah,
old,
exactly.
old wounds started resurfacing. Well, Colby, this has been a blast. Where can the folks find you in the Colby Cast online if they want to first continue the conversation and also to listen to your wonderful shows you got going on? 200 episodes strong.
Yeah, Anthony, I really appreciate giving me the chance to talk about the Colby Cast. I love it. It is not even a labor of love. It's just love. It's not labor. It's the best.
Exactly.
Uh, myself and my two boys, I mentioned they're in their 20s. We've always watched the Star Wars and the Marvels and movies in general and music, and we're huge hockey fans, sports fans in
Hmm.
general, and we just get together every week and we talk about stuff that this what we're watching. We just did our 201st episode ended up being about Captain America and Brave New World.
Hmm.
We've got Daredevil coming up. We've
That's
got
right. Ooh,
Andor season
can't
2
wait.
coming up. I plan on watching Last of Us, and I want to talk about that too. That
Hmm.
was just a terrific show from a couple years ago. Season 2 is coming out, and it's just a real blessing to be able to sit there and talk to my boys about these fun things and share it with all of you guys. So we're on Twitter, I guess X. I've got Threads and Instagram. So at the ColbyCast. Colby is spelled Colby, like the cheese,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
Kobe, not the Laker.
Love some Colby
uh,
Jack cheese.
Colby. I mean, my middle name is not Jack. Missed opportunity. If I
It
were my
really
parents,
was. Oh,
I really would have appreciated it. But
Colby
my
Jack
middle
Mead.
name's
That's
pretty.
perfect.
That would have been great, right? Yeah. So all those, and then of course all the podcast sites and apps. You can find us. So just Google the Colby Cast, and then scroll past the cast of the old Dynasty spinoff, which was called the Colbys. That's not it, and look for the podcast.
Love it. Love it. Folks, go listen to the Colby Cast. And of course, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode in your podcast feeds. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.